have a great sense of pride. Everyone contributes thoroughly to cleaning the school. Telling Japanese students that Australian students don't do cleaning.
Picture yourself walking into a Japanese school where nothing escapes notice. Your movements, your hair, even the underwear beneath your uniform is monitored. Teachers measure sock lengths, enforce silence on the walk home, and set strict standards that shape daily life. Join us as we explore 20 rules that define Japanese classrooms and the discipline they demand. But the question is, can you follow them all? These Japanese mind-blowing facts will leave you stunned. Strict uniform. At first glance, the uniforms seem sharp and well put together, but if you pay closer attention, you'll realize they're not just about looking good. They're a set of rules you wear every single day. In Japanese schools, the rules go to shocking extremes. Teachers have even been known to check if students are wearing plain white underwear, a level of control that feels almost unbelievable. And that is only the start. Families are also hit with a steep price tag, paying anywhere from $300 to $500 each year just to keep up with regulation uniforms. These uniforms, called seifuku, are not just about looking sharp. They are rules you wear every single day. Boys wear dark blazers and trousers, while girls wear sailor blouses with pleated skirts. The skirts are measured to the millimeter, ties must be in the exact spot, and socks are strictly controlled by color and length. Slip up, and the punishment can be harsh. Students can even be sent home for something as small as a sock violation, losing an entire day of learning in the process. When summer arrives, some schools forbid socks altogether to avoid sweat stains. And those iconic backpacks? They are not just fashion statements. Their colors actually reveal a student's grade level, so anyone can instantly know what year they are in just by looking. The idea behind all of this is discipline, equality, and order. But critics argue it strips away individuality, punishes the smallest mistakes, and adds unnecessary stress to already pressured students. So now, the question is yours. Would you be able to survive under these strict rules, or would it drive you crazy? Hair and nail standards. Before a teacher speaks or a lesson begins, the pressure is already visible on every student's head. Hairstyles are tightly controlled. Hair must be jet black and neatly styled. Students born with lighter shades or natural waves often face suspicion, and many are told to prove their hair is natural. Some are even ordered to dye it black to comply. A case in Osaka revealed how damaging this can be. A former student, now 21, said teachers repeatedly demanded she dye her naturally brown hair. When the school decided it was still not black enough, she was barred from classes and school trips until she eventually dropped out. The court later ruled that the prefectural government had caused emotional harm, awarding her compensation of 330,000 yen, but it also ruled that the school's rules were legal. For many students, experiences like this go beyond inconvenience. They create lasting anxiety and damage self-esteem. Imagine being told every day that your natural appearance is wrong. Over time, it can push students into isolation or even drive them out of school entirely. In Japan, dropout rates have often been linked to these rigid policies as students feel suffocated by a system that leaves no room for individuality. The restrictions do not stop with hair. Boys are required to keep a strict 2-block cut, while girls are told exactly how their hair must be tied. In some schools, even ponytails are banned because they are said to distract male classmates. Natural curls or waves can be flagged as violations, leading many students to straighten their hair just to avoid punishment. The same control extends to nails and accessories. Fingernails must be short and bare, with only a thin, clear coat sometimes allowed. Makeup, jewelry, and colorful watches are strictly forbidden. These rules strip away personal expression in the name of discipline. But for students who feel suffocated, they can trigger deeper struggles with identity and confidence. Supporters argue that the policies create equality and teach discipline, but critics point to the human cost. Japan is becoming more diverse, yet many schools cling to rules that silence individuality. As the debate grows, one urgent question remains: is enforcing uniformity worth the psychological toll it takes on students? Daily cleaning routine.
The students have a great sense of pride. Everyone contributes thoroughly to cleaning the school each day after lunch.
Ever wondered why Japan is one of the cleanest countries in the world? The answer starts inside their classrooms. But here is the shocking part. Students as young as 6 years old are expected to scrub toilets with their bare hands. No janitors, no cleaning staff. Instead, every broom, every mop, every rag is held by the students themselves. This tradition is called Gakko Soji, and it is built right into the school day. Every classroom, every hallway, even the restrooms are cleaned by the students, and it goes far beyond hygiene. It is about teaching discipline, humility, and respect. But what happens if a student refuses? They do not just skip the chore. They face social consequences, disapproval from peers, subtle shame from teachers. In a culture where cooperation and community responsibility are everything, standing out for the wrong reasons carries a heavy weight. The results are undeniable. Japan consistently ranks among the very top for environmental cleanliness. Visitors marvel at spotless train stations, litter-free streets, and classrooms that shine without professional cleaning staff. Still, this practice is not without controversy. Child labor advocates argue that having children clean bathrooms and floors crosses a line, blurring the difference between education and exploitation. Could you imagine your 6-year-old scrubbing toilets every single day at school? So what do you think? Is this a life lesson in responsibility, or is it child labor in disguise? Mandatory school lunch program. Now, here's something you might not expect. In Japan, elementary and junior high students aren't allowed to bring food from home. No packed snacks, no lunch boxes from mom. Every single meal comes straight from the school kitchen. Why? Equality. Nobody flashes wealth through fancy lunches, and nobody opts out of the group meal. It's the same tray for everyone. This system, called Kyushoku, is no random menu. Nutritionists plan every bite, balancing health and budget. And here's the strict twist. Students are expected to clear their plates. Leave food too often, and you might find yourself in detention or sitting through a teacher's lecture about wasting meals. The idea is noble. No child goes hungry, everyone eats the same, and equality is preserved. But think about the kid with a tiny appetite, or someone with food restrictions. For them, lunchtime can turn into quiet anxiety. Then comes high school, and suddenly the rules flip. Now students bring their own bento boxes, colorful, personalized meals packed from home. It's no longer about complete uniformity, but about family, choice, and individuality. The shift is clear. Kids' lunches teach order and routine, while teen lunches open the door to choice and responsibility. Dating ban and social restrictions. What most teenagers see as perfectly natural is treated as a serious offense in some Japanese schools. Imagine being in high school and discovering that dating is not just discouraged, but almost treated as a forbidden act. That is the reality many students face. Romantic relationships are often restricted, not because love is seen as wrong, but because schools want students to devote all their time and energy to academics and club activities without anything pulling them away. The enforcement of these rules can be extreme. Students have reported on their classmates for dating violations, creating an environment where trust among peers is replaced with surveillance. When someone is caught, the punishments can be severe, ranging from warnings to counseling and, in stricter schools, even suspension. The message is repeated until it becomes unshakable. School is for learning, not romance. But this strict focus on discipline comes with a heavy cost. Psychologists have pointed out that social isolation policies in schools can intensify loneliness and emotional stress. In Japan, teen suicide rates have been linked to these pressures, with isolation and lack of personal freedom often named as contributing factors. For many students, being denied something as natural as forming relationships leaves them feeling disconnected, misunderstood, and trapped. To outsiders, such restrictions may look excessively harsh, even unfair. Inside the system, however, they are seen as part of what shapes the disciplined, focused environment Japanese education is known for. Yet, the growing mental health crisis shows that the price of such discipline can be devastating. Curfew.
Japan is one of the safest countries in the world, and its police keep it that way while almost never firing a shot.
Or just imagine yourself in Japan on a school night. As the clock edges toward 10, the streets start to grow quiet, and students seem to vanish. That's no coincidence. Junior high and high schoolers are generally expected to be home by then, thanks to curfews shaped not only by parents, but also by local governments and the wider community. These rules are surprisingly structured. Parents and guardians are expected to keep minors from being out between 11 at night and 4 in the morning, unless it's for work, school, or some other valid reason. Businesses that operate late, whether it's a corner shop or a 24-hour restaurant, are even urged to remind minors to head home during those hours. Entertainment spots tighten things even further. Internet cafes, karaoke parlors, and game arcades often ban entry for those under 16, sometimes as early as 7 in the evening. And if a police officer spots a student lingering past curfew, they can stop them, ask questions, and politely send them home. Even regular citizens or store employees might step in, encouraging kids to return before it gets too late. The goal isn't simply to limit freedom, it's to instill routine. Japan links academic success with discipline, and these curfews aim to guide students toward healthier habits, better rest, sharper focus, and a clear sense of priorities.
Japan operates 6,000 koban and an equal number of smaller, rural posts blanketing every corner of the country.
A recent Yomiuri Shimbun survey revealed that over 70% of parents support these curfews, seeing them as a compass for teens navigating the tricky stage of adolescence. Sure, some students may see it as restrictive, but in the bigger picture, it's about building something deeper. These curfews reflect Japan's commitment to raising a generation that's academically strong, disciplined, and prepared to take on adulthood with responsibility. No substitute teachers, independent classroom management. You step into a Japanese classroom and notice something unusual. The teacher's chair is empty. No substitute. No adult standing at the front. To an outsider, it might look like abandonment, but inside those walls, the students are expected to carry on as if nothing is missing. Older students step forward, guiding the lesson, while the younger ones follow. On the surface, it is less about filling the role of a teacher and more about learning time management, cooperation, and shared responsibility. At its heart is omoyari, the Japanese value of anticipating the needs of others. When seniors step up to guide juniors, they model empathy in real time, and the younger ones absorb the lesson by watching it play out. To many, it looks like a clever way to build independence, but critics see something else. Children left to teach themselves when adults disappear. What some call independence training, others call educational neglect, and it raises a pressing question. What happens when student-led classes go wrong? Without an experienced adult to correct mistakes, lessons can derail. Misunderstandings get passed along as knowledge. Leadership roles may fall into the hands of a few, leaving quieter voices unheard. What seems like harmony from the outside sometimes hides pressure, stress, and inequality inside the group. Cultural respect through bowing. Before the first word of the lesson is spoken, before chalk even grazes the blackboard, every student leans forward in a unified bow to greet their teacher. It is a ritual as natural as breathing in the classroom. A student who dares to remain upright, refusing to bow, would quickly find themselves isolated, facing disapproval not only from teachers, but also from their own classmates. It looks simple, but it's so much more than a hello. That bow is a sign of humility, respect, and acknowledgement of the teacher's role. It sets the tone for the day, reminding everyone that learning starts with respect. From the outside, it may seem like just a routine, but in Japan, it's an important lesson in discipline and harmony. Teachers see it as a way of instilling values that matter long after school. Things like self-control, appreciation, and unity. Respect through eye contact. Sometimes the smallest gestures hold the deepest meaning. And in Japan's classrooms, respect is often measured in a look. That's right. Respect is not only expressed through words or bows, it can be found in something as small yet powerful as eye contact. Students are taught to meet their teacher's eyes, even if only for a split second, as a way of saying, "I am here, I am listening, I respect you." But here's where it gets interesting. Not everyone finds that easy. Some students feel shy, some just uncomfortable, and schools are starting to notice. Slowly, the tradition is evolving. More classrooms are finding ways to honor respect while still giving space for individuality. Whether through a glance, a bow, or a careful word, students are raised to engage with courtesy. And that's something they'll carry long after they leave the classroom. So tell us, if you were sitting in that room, would holding eye contact feel natural to you? Or would it feel like the hardest homework of all? Rooftop access. The skyline is off limits to students, not for beauty or safety alone, but because rooftops became a silent stage for despair. Students are literally caged in. Rooftop doors are welded shut, sealed off like prison gates. What seems cinematic in movies, with a group of teenagers laughing against the backdrop of the city skyline, almost never happens in real life. The reason is not just clumsy accidents. It is something far darker. For decades, Japan has carried one of the highest youth suicide rates in the developed world. Between 2015 and 2023, more than 500 students a year took their own lives. A grim statistic that pushed authorities to ban rooftop access nationwide.
The suicide of Japanese actor Yuko Takeuchi has once again started the conversation about the country's high suicide rates.
What seems like a simple safety precaution is, in reality, a desperate response to tragedy. And yet the locks are not only about preventing deaths, they are also about control. Students are funneled into designated areas, the schoolyard, the gymnasium, the library, spaces where every movement can be monitored. Freedom is trimmed down to carefully supervised zones, ensuring no one slips out of sight. The Ministry of Education reinforced these restrictions during the past decade, especially in crowded urban schools built high above the streets. Order, structure, surveillance, it all feeds into the same system. So while television dramas may glorify rooftops as teenage sanctuaries, the truth is far more unsettling. The locked rooftop door is not just a piece of metal. It is a symbol of discipline, control, and the heavy shadow of a society where youth suicide is the leading cause of death for those between 15 and 34. Here's a wild thought. What if every single step you took in school was counted? Sounds a bit much, right? In these schools, every movement has a purpose. Students walk the halls with set guidelines, keeping their focus sharp and distractions low. The message is simple. The classroom comes first, and wandering without reason is not part of the plan. And when the final bell rings, the rules don't stop at the gate. Students are expected to walk home quietly, blending into the public space with discipline and respect. Here's where it gets interesting. Some schools require students to carry a tiny plant in their wallets. At first glance, it seems strange, almost out of place. The idea is that the plant acts as a living reminder of responsibility, a small symbol meant to teach children the value of caring for the environment. Yet, not everyone sees it that way. Critics argue that forcing students to carry a living organism crosses into psychological control. To them, it is less about environmental awareness and more about constant surveillance, a quiet way of making students feel they are always being tested, even outside the classroom. Independence in Japan does not wait until adulthood. It begins the moment a child sets foot in school. Even first graders are trusted to navigate trains or walk to school alone. It's not neglect, it's culture. From day one, kids are taught to face challenges head-on, with older students looking out for younger ones. That bond creates a community where everyone has someone watching their back. Now you might be wondering if that sounds risky. The twist is that Japan is one of the safest countries in the world, with crime rates so low that parents feel confident letting their kids explore public spaces alone. The lessons in responsibility don't stop at travel. Step inside a school, and you'll see students immediately swapping outdoor shoes for uwabaki, soft indoor shoes. It's not just tradition, it's about cleanliness, health, and keeping the learning space safe. And then there's swimming. It's not optional and not just for fun, it's required. In a country surrounded by water and vulnerable to disasters like tsunamis, swimming is more than a sport. It's a survival skill, one that could someday mean the difference between life and death.
A massive wall of water that rose as high as 30 feet, swallowing up parts of Japan. Throughout the seaside cities of the north, stunning devastation.
Here's something you'd notice if you stepped into a Japanese school first thing in the morning. The day doesn't start with books or lectures. It starts with movement. Students line up and go through radio calisthenics, a set of rhythmic stretches done in unison.
Any second now, they're going to take off and race like you can't believe. And there's Futami-sensei, he's going to watch as well.
It's not just about exercise, it's about focus, wellness, and creating a sense of unity. This tradition dates back to the early 20th century, when it was first introduced and even broadcast on public radio and television. Over time, it became more than a routine. It turned into a cultural symbol of harmony and school spirit. Now comes the part that stands out. Students pause for short meditation sessions, sitting quietly with their eyes closed for a few minutes. It is a simple practice of calming the mind and setting intentions for the day ahead. It's a simple pause, but it helps ease stress and balance the pressure of academics. Put together, these morning rituals show you exactly how Japan views education. It's not only about test scores or knowledge, it's about building resilience, discipline, and a strong sense of community. The Sasumata Safety System. Now, this is quite something unusual. Japanese schools keep a tool you probably wouldn't expect to see in a classroom. It's called a Sasumata, a long pole with two prongs at the end, built specifically to trap and restrain an intruder during an emergency.
The train made an emergency stop at the station following reports that the man stabbed a female passenger.
At first glance, it looks like some ancient weapon you'd see in a samurai drama. But here's the twist. It isn't meant to hurt anyone. Its job is purely modern, protecting students and teachers without causing injury. The reason it exists goes back to 2001 in Osaka. That year, an intruder entered an elementary school and carried out an attack so tragic it shocked the entire country. Even in Japan, where crime is usually rare, that incident forced schools to rethink security. Since then, the Sasumata has become a standard sight. Walk into a hallway or a classroom, and you'll notice it hanging where it can be grabbed quickly. Those two prongs aren't for show. They let a teacher pin down an intruder, holding them in place until police arrive, all without getting into a dangerous fight. What's interesting is how this tool reflects Japan's mindset. It's not about panic or fear, it's about preparation. Schools even practice using it during emergency drills, the same way they'd rehearse for earthquakes or fires. For parents and teachers, its presence offers reassurance. For students, it quietly promises protection. And for Japan, the Sasumata stands as a reminder that vigilance and safety are worth maintaining, even in a society where violence is rare. No exams till 3rd grade. You might think no tests sounds like paradise, but here's the dark side. In Japan, children spend their first 3 years of school without a single exam. Strange, right? At first glance, it feels progressive, almost refreshing. No scores, no rankings, no fear of failing. But critics argue that this freedom comes with academic delays, creating a steep wall when the pressure finally hits. Because when testing begins in 4th grade, it slams down hard. The shift is so extreme that failure rates spike. Nearly 1 in 3 students struggles to keep up once the academic floodgates open. Imagine coasting through years of lessons that feel almost playful, only to suddenly find yourself drowning in endless drills, high-stakes exams, and the crushing expectation to excel. And yet, those first years without exams are not wasted. They are deliberate. Instead of textbooks and test prep, students are taught something else entirely: discipline, respect, and responsibility. Before they're ever judged on math or science, they're judged on character. A child's behavior reflects not only on themselves, but on their entire class, even their family. So punishment is rare. Instead, schools rely on internal motivation, shaping students to act not out of fear, but out of duty. By the time academics take center stage, these kids are wired differently. They see learning not as a burden, but as an obligation to themselves and their community. And the results speak for themselves. Japan's students consistently rank among the highest in the world, not just for knowledge, but for focus, discipline, and respect. But here's the unsettling truth. The very system that builds such discipline also breeds anxiety and burnout. Some thrive under the weight, while others collapse. The same rules that stitch order into daily life can also unravel a child's confidence. The question is no longer whether it works, it's whether the cost is too high. The school mobile phone ban. Think school always comes with phones in pockets? Not here. These classrooms run phone-free. Imagine stepping into a Japanese classroom. Notice something missing? No buzzing phones, no glowing screens under desks. For years, Japan has banned mobile phones in schools, believing they disrupt focus, weaken face-to-face interaction, and chip away at the discipline that classrooms are built on. Since the year 2000, this rule stretched across every level, from elementary schools to high schools. But then came 2018. A massive earthquake struck Osaka, and in that chaos, mobile phones proved their worth as lifelines.
Are reportedly experiencing power shortages, and another 100,000 are without gas.
That moment forced the government to rethink. By 2019, the policy shifted. Junior high and high school students were allowed to carry phones, but only for emergencies, and only if they stayed tucked away during class. It was a compromise, acknowledging both the danger of distraction and the importance of being able to call for help. Fast forward to early 2024. Japan is swinging back. New restrictions are set to expand again, this time covering elementary and special schools as well. The concern is clear. Phones may be useful, but they can also quietly chip away at learning and the face-to-face connections that Japan's education system values so highly. What you see here is more than just a school rule. It's Japan walking a fine line, trying to balance modern safety with its deep-rooted belief in focused, distraction-free learning. Emphasis on punctuality. When punctuality becomes psychological torture, the classroom clock stops being just a tool for keeping time and starts becoming a source of pressure. In Japan, time is not simply measured. It is treated as a language of respect, and punctuality is enforced with an intensity that can feel overwhelming. 1 minute late is enough to trigger consequences. A student may be forced to bow, apologize to the entire class, or even make up for every moment they lost. It is not brushed aside. Instead, lateness becomes a public reminder of accountability, and the weight of social responsibility. To outsiders, this strictness might seem unnecessary, but inside Japanese classrooms, it is seen as a life lesson. Your time matters, and so does everyone else's. Every second counts, and arriving late is not just about being behind schedule. It is about the message it sends to the group. Yet, this obsession with punctuality comes at a cost. Studies have linked the constant pressure to rising anxiety among Japanese students, who learn from a young age that even a few minutes can define how they are judged. What is meant to build discipline often doubles as psychological strain, pushing children to see mistakes not as minor slip-ups, but as personal failures. From childhood onward, this lesson never fades. Punctuality follows students into adulthood, shaping how they show up at work, in relationships, and in society itself. For many, it builds reliability. For others, it plants seeds of fear of failure, fear of disappointing the group, fear of being left behind. Extracurricular activities. Let us take you inside a Japanese school day, because here, the real action doesn't stop when the last bell rings. Students head straight into extracurricular clubs, and these aren't casual hangouts. Whether it's baseball, kendo, music, or an academic society, clubs are treated as an essential part of life, shaping teamwork, resilience, and character. Take sports clubs, for example. Training can start as early as 5 in the morning, then continue again after classes, with weekends packed full of competitions. The experience creates strong bonds, but it also drives students right to the edge of exhaustion. A Kyoto University study in 2023 uncovered the cost of this routine. More than half of high school students said they feel stressed trying to keep up with both academics and their demanding club schedules. And that's on top of an already intense school year. 240 days, which is about 60 more than students in the United States. Classes run 50 minutes, with only short breaks in between. It's a system built on discipline, but one that can take a toll on well-being. So while these clubs are celebrated for building unity and strength, they also reveal the pressure-packed reality of Japanese student life. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.